cases are on the rise in BC, so new restrictions are coming in, and you're being asked to do the right thing.
Do not blow this for the rest of us. Do not blow this for your parents and your neighbors and others who have been working really, really hard, making significant sacrifices.
These restrictions that we are facing right now are very frightening to me.
It's already been a challenging year, and now BC's restaurant industry is dealt another blow. How some local restaurants plan to survive the next 3 weeks with a new ban on indoor dining.
It's such a quiet, loving, supportive community, and, you know, it's just parents and kids.
As the community of North Vancouver comes together after a random and deadly stabbing over the weekend, we're learning more about what happened here in Lynn Valley on Saturday afternoon. Just ahead, an update on the investigation and how the victims are doing.
A circuit breaker is now required to break the chains of transmission in our province and allow us to safely move forward through this next phase. Gathering indoors is what is the greatest risk to all of us right now. As a result, for the next 3 weeks, from midnight tonight through to April 19th, I am putting a number of amendments in place.
These changes starting at midnight tonight are to try and curb the increase in cases of COVID and variants in the province. They include dine-in service prohibited except outdoor patios, bars and pubs without full meal service closed, Whistler Blackcomb Ski Resort closed, limited indoor religious services canceled, indoor adult fitness classes canceled. These are the places where Henry says the transmissions are being amplified. How bad is it right now?
During the past week, case counts have risen unacceptably high. In fact, higher today than at the worst point of the second wave between November and January of this year. The percentages of tests coming back positive has gone up by 50% in some areas, and the number of variants in British Columbia has also increased.
More than 2,500 new COVID cases over the weekend, and more of the variants that are more transmissible. Now, 413 active cases, nearly twice what there were in BC 4 days ago.
It is important for us to take measures now to stop the transmission of these important variants in our communities as our vaccination program is ramping up. We are concerned that these are driving much of our current transmission.
Those transmissions have led to more cases in children while students have been out of school for spring break. But now classes are back. The province strongly suggesting all students grade 4 and up wear masks, mandating it in hard-hit Surrey.
Teachers have been calling for these measures to be put in place for months. That has been very stressful. The exposure notifications, especially in the areas where we're seeing them repeatedly, have been very stressful. Teachers have had to take on the load of keeping students safe and keeping each other safe, and that has been very taxing. So we welcome the additional support of the mask mandate, and we also see that there are other measures that need to be put in place as well.
Teachers are continuing to push for more hybrid learning options, and as classes resume, a warning for people who chose to travel for fun over the break, especially as there have been a cluster of one of the concerning P1 variants in Whistler.
It is critical right now that if you or anyone in your family develops any sign of illness, that you, especially children returning from spring break, and if you have traveled, you must stay home from work or school. Arrange to get tested immediately.
Travel continues to be a no-go unless essential. People also asked to work from home if possible. Today, also a pause on AstraZeneca vaccine here and across the country. This while more study is done on the risk of blood clots, a few dozen instances outside of Canada.
The instances are rare. This is a very rare condition with tens of millions of doses of this vaccine being used. We are taking the precaution of suspending the use of this vaccine for people who are under age 55 for the next few days.
Those who've had AstraZeneca should watch for symptoms and get medical help if concerned. But BC's age-based vaccination rollout not affected. And as the process continues, public health and the province imploring people to follow restrictions, especially those in their 20s and 30s, where most transmissions are happening.
Do not blow this for the rest of us. Do not blow this for your parents and your neighbors and others who have been working really, really hard, making significant sacrifices.
For City News in Victoria, I'm News 1130's Lisa Eusda.
There's a lot of tough decisions to be made.
Indoor dining is off the menu for the next 3 weeks across BC, and the suspension is expected to take a huge toll on the restaurant industry that's already been struggling for over a year.
It's going to drastically limit our ability to make enough money to pay any staff and make our rent and things like that. It's all very frightening. Obviously, the COVID numbers are frightening as well.
Eric Nielsen is the owner of the Wallflower Diner in Mount Pleasant. He says 3 weeks is a big deal in the restaurant industry.
Well, 3 weeks is definitely long enough for most of our food to go bad. So there's going to be a lot of food waste involved in the entire restaurant industry across the province.
Just up from the Wallflower Diner on Main Street is The Basic, a popular breakfast spot in the neighborhood. Its owner has similar concerns.
Now we're going to be behind again, right? Just when we thought we were catching up.
While the suspension will take a financial toll on restaurants, it will also impact staff.
I started hiring people, and now I'm going to have to tell them that they don't have a job anymore. And also, we laid off a few people that we had already on the schedule. So it affects not just the business, but like the people that work here, right?
Definitely a bummer because most of us live off of getting tips, and with takeout, you don't get nearly as many tips.
The new rules come into effect Monday at midnight, and many in the industry are scrambling to figure out alternative plans. Staff at the Earl's Kitchen on West Broadway were out Monday afternoon, converting the restaurant's parking lot into outdoor seating. But the process hasn't been smooth for everyone.
It took so long just to get approved for it, and I kind of understand because now that more businesses saw what happened last year, more were applying, and the city's probably understaffed. And last year I got approved within 2 days of applying. This year, just for renewal, it took a month.
We don't have an outdoor patio at the moment. They do have the temporary patio permits. We're looking into getting the curbside one in the parking spots, but there's paperwork involved in that.
To help alleviate the financial damage, Vancouver Mayor Kennedy Stewart is promising city staff will work with the restaurant industry to help with patio options.
Everybody needs to help each other at this point in time.
We're going to be hitting the think tank and trying to get creative as much as possible.
And the takeaway from the provincial announcement, the suspension will remain in place until at least April 19th. In Vancouver, Miranda Fatour, City News.
We are taking this precautionary measure while Health Canada, as the regulator, completes its updated risk-benefit analysis based on emerging data.
Canada's top vaccine experts advise people under the age of 55 to not get the AstraZeneca COVID-19 shot for the time being, as scientists look into a possible connection to blood clots. BC follows suit and puts the vaccine on hold for the next couple days.
It's a really emotional day, and we just wanted to pay our respects.
A memorial continues to grow here in North Vancouver for the victims of Saturday's deadly and random stabbing spree. On Monday afternoon, homicide investigators provided an update on the case, and we learned more about the victims in this violent attack.
No one expects to be confronted with violence while going about their day in a civic plaza, outside a library, and just running their errands for the course of the day. It's an absolute shock.
The Integrated Homicide Investigation Team says the victims include 1 man and 5 women. They're between the ages of 22 and 78. One of the female victims is North Vancouver biology teacher Shaloa Clausen. Her sister Leah says she was defending another woman from the attacker.
She's a warrior. She saw the man running into the library and just start stabbing a woman. So she yelled to her daughter to run and hide. And she picked up her umbrella, ran towards the man, and just started beating him to try and get him off. And then that's when he slashed her hand and stabbed her. She had a sliced finger from blocking the knife and a stab wound to the very back left of her skull. She's doing really good. She's healing fast, just sticking close to her daughter and her husband and just healing.
Suzanne Till is another one of the victims. She's a single mother of 3, a community volunteer, and avid baker. Till has suffered extensive and life-changing injuries and won't be able to return to work anytime in the near future. A fundraising campaign for the single mom has raised more than $100,000.
I've heard stories of bravery and kindness that are coming out of this horror, like restaurant staff helping the injured, strangers rushing to administer first aid, and other acts of compassion and bravery that we will all need to recognize in the coming months.
28-year-old Yannick Bandaugo was arrested at the scene and has since been charged with second-degree murder. He's scheduled to appear in court on April 1st.
Since I took conduct of this homicide investigation on Saturday afternoon, we can establish that the accused was unknown and did not have any links to any of the victims based on our information so far. The accused does have links to Quebec, and we're still trying to determine what brought him to the West Coast.
Court records show that Bandaugo has an address in Gatineau, Quebec, and he has a violent criminal history. He is also wanted on warrants in Winnipeg. In the meantime, North Vancouver District Mayor Mike Little says grief counseling is set up at Caring Magnuson Rec Centre.
This center is a space for the community to access services to support your mental and emotional well-being. The center is open from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily for the next 7 days.
In North Vancouver, Kier Junos, City News.
More training is among the recommendations being made in a new report on the deadly crash in Kamloops last year. The jet crash happened just seconds after takeoff from the city's airport. It killed a member of the Canadian Snowbirds team and injured the pilot. The report says the aerobatic team should be better prepared for engine failure at low altitude after takeoff. The Air Force investigation found that the pilot tried to turn back toward the airport but ended up ejecting before the jet crashed into a residential neighborhood. It was too low for their parachutes to deploy properly. Captain Jennifer Casey was killed. Captain Richard McDougall had serious but non-life-threatening injuries.
The National Advisory Committee on Immunization has changed its advice on the AstraZeneca vaccine, now telling Canadians under the age of 55 not to get the shot. Committee Chair Dr. Caroline Quash says it's due to safety concerns.
The risk seems to be higher in the younger population, so we're pausing it there. However, in terms of the overall effectiveness in preventing complications and death, and in particular for those 80 years and older and the frailer ones, we see that it actually is working pretty well.
Following that direction, BC Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry says the province will temporarily pause the use of the vaccine.
If you have received the AstraZeneca vaccine and it's more than 20 days since you've received it, there is no concerns. If you have received the AstraZeneca vaccine and you develop symptoms that are concerning, such as headaches or swelling, and we have a list of those symptoms on the BC CDC website, you can seek medical attention.
The symptoms typically show up 4 to 20 days after someone received the shot. The symptoms may mimic those of a stroke or a heart attack, and the chances of getting a blood clot, though, are low, between 1 in 100,000 and 1 in a million. So far, there have been no cases of this reported in Canada. Health Canada is also placing new terms and conditions on AstraZeneca, requiring the company to conduct more research on risks and benefits around age and sex of patients. When reports of blood clots first came from Europe, Health Canada and the World Health Organization declared the shot was safe. This week, Canada is supposed to receive 1.5 million doses of AstraZeneca from the U.S. and another 1.5 million from India before the end of May. Canada has only received 500,000 shots so far. For City News, I'm News 1130's Lasha Kretzel.
A woman is in serious condition in hospital after she was shot in the Fraser Heights neighborhood in Surrey. It happened just before midnight at a home on 113B Avenue. The suspect took off before police got there. Investigators believe there is no risk to the public and that the parties involved did know each other. They say this does not appear to be connected to the Lower Mainland gang conflict, but they are investigating links to the drug trade. Power has been restored to much of the South Coast after Sunday's intense windstorm. At the peak of the storm, around 180,000 hydro customers were without electricity across the South Coast. A vast majority of those affected were on the Lower Mainland. Crews worked through the night to get the lights back on. West Vancouver and Langley were among the hardest hit areas. Hydro says that most of the power outages were connected to downed power lines. TransLink is making some changes to Handy Dart. Later this year, the Compass Card program will be expanded to include Handy Dart shuttles, and there will be an online booking system as well. The accessible shuttle service is currently providing about 2,000 trips a day across the Lower Mainland. That's about 40% of its pre-pandemic ridership levels, and it's projected to see significant growth over the next decade. But as the Handy Dart program continues to evolve, TransLink wants some insight on a proposed new registration process and potential changes that could lower fares for some customers.
So we are considering introducing age-based discounts on our Handy Dart service. Right now, about 70% of Handy Dart customers are seniors. On the conventional system, seniors and people under the age of 18 can access a discount called the concession rate. That's not currently available on Handy Dart. So if we move ahead with this change, then people, seniors and people under the age of 18 would be able to travel at a lower rate. Everyone else will have no change to their fares. We expect that this would go into effect likely this fall.
TransLink is looking for public feedback on its Handy Dart modernization program. It runs until April the 25th, and you can find more information on TransLink's website. Vancouver's news is always available on the radio with News 1130 or online anytime at citynews1130.com. And your next edition of City News is tonight at 11 o'clock. Thanks for watching and have a great night.